G'day folks. Today I want to talk about why Fource does not work. I got to really go up to get him in. He's a big horse. Yeah, I want to talk about why Fource doesn't work, and because Fource does not work, how big, size doesn't matter. And I'm talking about how big you are or how big the horse is. God, this guy's huge. I have big hands, okay? I wear extra large gloves, and look at my hand compared to his ear. That's how big this horse is. I had to reach up pretty hard to get there. That's about as hard as I can reach. Actually, he's not incredibly huge. At Withers here, he's about 17 hands. But if you look at the size of this guy, I mean, he's big. That's all there is to it. He's big. I mean, if you look at the size of that butt, this is not a tiny horse. Now, I suspect my tape's not even close to big enough. We don't have a scale here, so I'm going to guess he's somewhere between 15 and 1,800 pounds, roughly. And he's kind of the subject of my video, anyway. Quite relative, actually. You see, it wasn't all that long ago, and I've heard it said to other people as well, as well, I can't handle the horse. It's too big for me. You're bigger than me, you can handle it. And the last time somebody said that to me, it was like, excuse me, that horse outweighs me 5 to 1 anyhow. Even my little horse outweighs me 4 to 1, and, she could drag me around if she really wanted to. This guy here, he probably outweighs me about 8 to 1. So anyhow, it's not about brute strength. It's not about force. That doesn't work. There's this kind of a misnomer that to work with horses, you got to be some kind of big, strong, young cowboy type. I don't know, something like that. And I'm not a cowboy, and I'm definitely not young, and I'm not particularly big or strong. But we do okay because we don't rely on force, because that's not going to work anyhow. Now, unless you got like a 10-ton winch, a big bat, a whip, a cattle prod, and God knows what else, force isn't going to work. It's not even possible. It's not even an option. And if you were to employ any of those things, I'd call it just outright abuse, and you'd be instilling fear into the animal that, well, if you train a horse with fear, that's just not going to end well. Sooner or later, that will blow up in your face. So force isn't an option. And it's not necessary, not one little bit. And I'm going to get into it a bit. Not sure how long it was, less than a year ago, come across a lady that had trained a horse in another country, which in itself is not unusual. But she had her horse extremely well trained. I mean, she had her horse doing stuff that, mine don't do. I wouldn't even know how to train a horse for. And it was really cool, but again, that in itself, not necessarily a big deal. But what was really cool about it is she did it all from a wheelchair. So she did not rely on her mobility or her strength or anything like that to train the horse. Force doesn't work, like I said. And I'm going to include in this video, in the description, I'm going to put a link to another video I found on YouTube. Actually, I found another version of it a while back I come across. And it's really cool because it is one horse, very much like this one, probably pretty close to the same size in harness. And they got him in harness, and they got hooked onto the back of his harness. They got a big rope, and they got, in the video it says 18 men, and no women or children, all men, 18 of them. One horse, 18 men, and they had a tug of war. And when that horse walked off, it was like those guys weren't even there, and most of them actually gave up and let go within the first few feet because they realized that nothing good was going to come of it. They were not going to win, and they quit right away. So watch that one. That gives you a good example of why force does not work, because with a horse this size, same breed, Belgian draft horse in the video, and about the same size as this, and 18 men couldn't outpull that horse. So one person, do you think you stand a chance? No. It's not about using force. It's about techniques and methods and things like that. Don't think for any reason whatsoever that force is a factor. It's not. And actually, it's kind of interesting because this all come about because this particular guy, I had somebody out here with me a couple days ago, and this was one of the horses I had in here. And when I was leading him in, just before he got to the door, he says, "Yeah, I don't want to. I'm going the other way." And, well, let's face it, he outweighs me 8-1. I don't stand a chance. One man. If 18 can't hold back one of these horses, one guy sure the heck can't. But he only went about 30 feet in the other direction, and finally he decided, I think the arena might be a better place to go, because I used a technique and a method. I didn't resort to using brute force or strength or anything like that to reel him in here. And at the end of the day, I'd done a bunch of liberty work with my other horses as well and everything else. And at the end of the day, when we were driving home, the thing that they said they were the most impressed with was the fact that I managed to wrangle this guy into the arena. That was the thing that stood out, and that is a basic element, and that's kind of one of those things I thought it was neat in the fact that people don't realize that even though he's 8 times my size, I can still convince him to go where I want him to go. And again, today he was a little reluctant to come in here. He's because of his size, I think, partly. He's kind of gotten away with doing whatever he wants, and he's kind of got this mentality that he doesn't have to do what he's told to do. And we've had this conversation a couple times with him. He's starting to figure out that, no, he does have to do what I ask him to do. But anyhow, 8 times my size, I still got him in here. I didn't rely on force. Force does not work. It's, if I get into a tug of war with even a small horse, I am not going to win. So if you're a smaller guy or a rather petite lady or something like that, your size is irrelevant, because your strength doesn't matter, because you're not going to rely on force. Method and technique is what's going to work. Okay? So there you go. Force doesn't work. Size doesn't matter. It's all about how you do things. Watch the video in the description. It's a very good example of what one of these horses can do and why force does not work. Have a good day.